What's up guys, it's Chastin J Miles, and what's so interesting to me is that I can sit here and post my commission statements on YouTube for everybody to see, and there's still people who will sit there and challenge me on it and wonder what I did or what I had to do and all this kind of stuff, and literally want to sit there and I feel like halfway hate a little bit because I did that. And so what I want to do in this video is I want to clear some things up for those of you who may have more questions about the money that I made my first year in real estate. So in this video, I am going to break down what other things I did to make it through my first year in real estate as far as the money goes. Because if you watch that video, which I'll link it up in the cards, about how much money I made my first year in real estate, you will see that it wasn't a lot of money. And so I'm going to tell you how I got through that in this video. Hopefully this answers everybody's questions, but if not, I don't know, I guess a third video is in the works, but that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Alright, before I get into it, I have some exciting news. I started another YouTube channel where I'm gonna post more behind the scenes real estate stuff, so not necessarily me sitting here talking, but more of the vlog style, speaking events, things that we do here on the team trainings. Like if that's something that you think that you might like, I'm gonna be posting videos on there soon, but the channel's already set up. Go ahead, click the link below in the description and it will take you to that channel for you to subscribe. So let's get into the money. In that other video that I did, I talked about my real estate income for my first year in real estate. And now that's a key word. I'm gonna say my real estate income. I showed y'all commission statements from my real estate business. That's how much money I made from real estate. So obviously that amount of money was not a lot for anybody to live on. But I'm gonna say the first thing that just points out to me when I think about this is, for one, my expenses weren't that high. And so I didn't have kids, I wasn't married, the apartment that I was living in was not expensive by any means. I think that the rent was maybe around like $700 a month. And so I was not going out there just living a lavish life. I mean, I couldn't have. And so I had to absolutely live with just the bare minimum apartment, the bare minimum car. Hell, I remember like going to the gas station, and you know that you don't have a lot of money when you, and no offense to anybody, but when you can't fill up the tank. But that was me. I couldn't fill up the tank. I was just putting in $5, $10 here and there to get me from place to place. So that's my first thing. I didn't really have high expenses. I was that guy that was being frugal with everything aside from where I was living. Like the lights were being turned off. I wasn't spending excess lights. I didn't have cable. I didn't even have a Netflix account. I mean, it was the bare minimum. So when that's the case, you're not running up all these unnecessary expenses that eat into the money that you're bringing in. Some of you out there can't really see how I did that because you're used to living a certain way. And yeah, granted, I was living a certain way prior to, because I was living at home and in college and stuff, but then when I get out on my own, it wasn't like that. I had to do what I had to do because I wasn't able just to be borrowing money from people all the time. Like that just wasn't my situation. So therefore I had to do the bare minimum. What was I eating? Cheap shit food. I was eating it like it was the day of life. Like the noodles, the dollar menu, anything like food that'll just stretch. You get a loaf of bread and a pack of meat, and that's what you was eating every single day. I mean, that was it. And so I wasn't really like going out drinking a lot. I wasn't eating out a lot. I couldn't. It wasn't part of my life at that point. The next thing was I was only spending money in places absolutely necessary. And this even came to the real estate business. This came to clothes, events, gifts, like all that kind of stuff. I couldn't do everything. I couldn't do everything that I wish that I could have done. I was extremely limited. I could only spend money in the necessary places. Those necessary places basically came down to my shelter, gas in my car, and then I mean, those were the only things that I was really spending money on. Anything outside of that was pretty much waiting. I had to spend a lot of money to get into real estate, to invest in real estate. And y'all keep in mind, when I first started, I actually had a little bit of money before I went into real estate full time. Like, I didn't just jump in completely broke. So I had a little bit of a savings. Now, if I could go back, I would have probably had more savings because I didn't know how quickly it was going to go away. But I didn't step into it with just pockets empty. Now, the pockets got empty within my first year because I spent all my money. I was starting to get the business going, and so it wasn't just a huge down and out to where I was being put out on the street. But even with that being said, I can only spend money on what was absolutely necessary. And if I didn't think that it was absolutely necessary, then I wasn't doing it. Now, y'all keep in mind, I was smart. Like, I tend to think that I was smart. So I didn't have anybody there that if I was to run out, I didn't have like a spouse that I could be like, oh, give me some money because, you know, yeah, you're working and I'm not. Like, it just wasn't the case. And so I had to be very calculated with every dollar that was going out. I sold a bunch of my stuff. I sold a lot of stuff, like any type of electronic that I had that I didn't really need, any articles of clothing that I could get rid of. I was at Plato's Closet almost every single month, like getting rid of stuff. I was doing what I had to do. And some of you can't really grasp that concept because you've never had to be in that position before. And so when you leave me comments thinking that I'm lying about this, I mean, it just shows how you've never had to experience anything like that, so you can't even wrap your head around it. But when you're in that situation, you get into a survival mode. And when you're in that survival mode, you figure out stuff to do to get money and to keep your lights on or to pay your bills so you won't get put out on the street. You figure out stuff. And if that means selling that iPad that somebody got you, or selling some clothes that you really want but you know that they worth a little bit of money that somebody purchased for you, I just had to do it. And that was, I mean, I even remember like one time I took out a payday loan because I was just all over the place. I was all over the place. But again, that was one of those things that I had to do to get my head above water. And then don't get me wrong, so since the real estate money wasn't steady, it wasn't like I was just sitting back and waiting for the money to just rain on me or waiting for a deal to close when I didn't even have any deals in the pipeline. Like, I was pretty smart when it came to things like graphic design and like websites. So I was doing little odd jobs here and there for people that may have needed something. I mean, I was starting to network with business owners, and I was posting ads on Craigslist for just graphic design services and all kinds of stuff. I was selling cell phones for T-Mobile. I was doing stuff so that I can get in money here and there. But my focus, my full-time was the real estate. And my first year, I only made that amount of money. That was not the only money that I brought in per se, but that was what the message in that video was about. That was what I was talking about, how much I made in my first year in real estate. And so that's what I kept that subject to. I can't tell you how much money I pulled in as a whole because, like I said, making trips here and there, getting $100 here, getting $50 there, getting, you know, just enough to put some gas in the car here and there, like, that was it. But it wasn't necessarily like income that I'm putting on a tax return or anything. It was money that I was having to make, coming up with, borrowing, doing what I can for that one moment, being in that survival mode. Before you try to knock somebody's struggle and before you think that somebody's not telling the truth, really think about them and step into their shoes, because you don't know everything that goes on, and it's not right for you to assume that somebody's not telling you the truth because you can't understand it. If you're in that position right now, just do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do to get the money that you need, okay? This is only temporary. It won't last forever, but sometimes we get in these positions and we gotta do what we gotta do, and that's exactly what I did.